Mr. Speaker, members, this is a simple amendment that would prohibit anyone convicted of crimes related to the insurrection on January 6, 2021, or who has participated in or encouraged an act of insurrection against the government of this state or the United States from assisting a voter in person. The Capitol insurrection this past January was a true attack on American democracy, and those involved should not be allowed anywhere near our elections. The most concerning fact is that among those arrested following the January 6th insurrection, whose home states were known, the most were from Texas, with 41 Texans charged thus far. Any involvement indicates a clear disregard for the processes of our democracy. We cannot trust people who stormed the Capitol to comply with free and fair elections. If someone is willing to engage in a violent attempt to overthrow the government to maintain power for their preferred candidate, they will surely be willing to intimidate voters or assist them dishonestly in any way they can for political gain. There are consequences for criminal acts. For the crime of assaulting the institution of American democracy, it is not unreasonable to bar the offender from assisting a voter at the polls. I move adoption.
Chair recognizes Mr. MURR to speak against the amendment.
Mr. Speaker, members, I simply just oppose this amendment.
Chair recognizes Ms. Zwiener to close on the amendment.
Members, if we believe in election integrity, then we do not need folks who have disregarded election integrity to have their hands on vulnerable citizens' ballots.
Will the gentlelady yield for questions?
Will the lady yield for questions?
I will.
Lady yields for questions.
Will this amendment also pertain to Antifa and all the people that have destroyed businesses across the country and killed people in cities like Portland and Chicago? Will this amendment include them as well?
I believe we already have some provisions around other crimes that...
Well, I'm asking if your amendment pertains to that, because you're talking about one event that happened, but we've had almost 2 years of chaos across the country, and so I'm wondering if your amendment pertains to those people as well.
My amendment does not pertain to the full world of crime. What my amendment says is I have never, it would make people say that I have never participated in or encouraged an act of insurrection against this state or the federal government. And I think we have to acknowledge as a body that attacking the very seat of government itself is in its very essence fundamentally different from other types of crime. We have to acknowledge that our democracy is important and it matters, and attacking the Capitol is different from property crime in general.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Turner, for what purpose?
Would the lady yield for a question?
Will the lady yield?
I will.
Lady yields for questions.
Thank you, Representative Zwiener. I heard the bill author say he was going to oppose the amendment. I didn't hear an explanation of why he is opposing the amendment. I just want to make sure I understand it. It seems pretty clear that you just have to assert that you've never participated in or encouraged an act of insurrection against the state or the country. Is that right?
That is correct. I am uncertain why he is opposing it. Are you aware of a possible reason
why members would oppose what seems to be a very common sense proposal that you have in this amendment?
I am not. I mean, the only thing I could surmise is that because this bill is so deeply rooted in the big lie, that there is some concern that the same people who support this legislation, not in this body, but that the same people who support this legislation may have concerns about this language because of their actions or the actions of people close to them.
Well, I would agree with you that someone who's participated in insurrection against our nation doesn't have any business participating in the electoral process in this way. So I think you have a good amendment.
Thank you.
Speaker. Mr. Biedermann, for what purpose?
Does the representative yield for a question?
Will the representative yield for the question?
I do.
So is your amendment that anybody that attended that rally is part of the insurrection?
The language is I have never participated in or encouraged an act of insurrection. As to the motivations and actions of someone who attended a rally, I'll have to leave that to them and their conscience.
So what does your amendment say?
My amendment says, and I have, well, it would add to the statement that that someone who assists the voter makes, and I have never participated in or encouraged an act of insurrection against the state or the federal government.
Well, you only took off to D.C. against the state of Texas, against the law, but again, what does your amendment actually say?
I don't think we should get into a back and forth about our individual actions regarding insurrection, Representative Biedermann.
What? So I just asked you a question. Is your amendment people that attended that rally and attended the January 6th event, you're calling them all insurrectionists?
I have answered that question. The language is participated in or encouraged an act of resurrection or insurrection. As for someone's individual actions at that rally, I think that would depend on exactly what they were.
So that would be about 400 people, correct?
400 people? I'm sorry.
Is that, I mean, those are the only people that have been arrested or have been accused of anything by the police. Is that correct?
I am not advised on the exact number of people who have currently been arrested or indicted, though I am aware that operations are ongoing to identify and find more.
And it's only been, what, 7 months? So about 400 people, maybe 600 have been identified. Is that correct?
I'm unsure how this is related to the amendment.
The amendment is all about the insurrection that you're claiming on January 6th. Yet you were not there. You don't know what happened. All you're doing is listening to the liberal media. Is that correct? Where'd you get your information?
My language is any insurrection against this state or the federal government. And I do think the events of January 6th, which have involved or which have led to the death of multiple Capitol Police officers, are clearly the most obvious and noteworthy example in recent history.
So,
but I am certain
how many
we could,
police officers were killed at this supposed January 6th insurrection?
if I recall correctly, one died soon afterwards.
How many days afterwards?
And
how many days? We just want to have truth out here. We don't want to be spouting off things that aren't true. How many days afterwards did he die? I'm just asking you a question. How many days?
I am not advised.
Oh, you're making all these accusations about
Representative
people dying?
Biedermann, I have been on a game show. I am not on one right now. So I am not going to draw up random facts.
Sure, but
recently.
you're not telling the truth either. And you're making up and exaggerating what happened at that event. That's what I'm trying to, that's what I'm, that's all I'm
Representative
pointing out.
Biedermann, do you believe the events of January 6th were an insurrection?
Lady's time has expired.
Of course not.